Cold Island is a very tedious island to talk about. This is one of the more controversial islands in MSM, and that's because its main gimmick is the usage of dissonance. In other words, it's sour notes galore. That plus the fact that, spoiler, this island doesn't have a lot of rhythmic interest or even melodies, lands it as a very controversial island. But let's see what Cold Island has to offer. So as usual, let's start with the bad stuff. Wobox is absolute noise on this island. It completely clutters up the song when it plays and has absolutely no rhythmic interest, and it's just an absolute nuisance. The only reason I can get behind it is simply because it doesn't play a lot, but it does drag everything down when it plays. Grumpire and Yule are fairly unimpressive. Grumpire has a very draining vocal performance and sticks out like a sore thumb when the more energetic monsters like Sponge and Rare Wobox play. Yule on Cold is one of the weaker seasonal tracks in the game, as it really doesn't expand on any monster, just kind of a throwaway track. Magpie has some interesting qualities here. Her worst one is that, like Grumpire, at times her vocal performance can be very draining, as it just sounds unenthusiastic, which clashes hard against Talker. Dipsters are a mixed bag on this island. The first track is very annoying in the intro and adds nothing to the song, though later we'll see that the second track is a very much different story. Okay, it's time to address the elephant in the room. Like I said in the intro, this island trades rhythmic interest and interesting melodies for its harmonic dissonance and chord progressions. This trade-off is what causes Cold Island to be one of the most complex islands in the whole game, but also one of the most controversial. Many monsters share the exact same rhythms throughout the roster, and a lot of them just follow what the castle base does. Quibble easily does it the best, but other than them and Rare Wobox, it leaves the rest of these monsters feeling like throwaway. Not only that, but this island is also very scarce in actual melodies. There's never more than a whopping 2 playing at a time minus the ending verse, when it becomes just 4. And while those melodies are really good, the island's still really scarce on them, and that's a big downside for it. This leaves the island very sparse on interesting things to focus on, and again, it really leaves the island to focus on its one strengths, the chords and dissonance. So let's talk about the good monsters on this island. Sponge is iconic on this island. Its whistle is upbeat and its melody is a sharp contrast to the rest of the dire tone of the song, but it's not overpowering and leaves room for others to play, and not too overbearing in its performance. In other words, enchanting done right. Danidoo, Tweedle, Thumpies, and Pangle all start off the song pretty strong. Tweedle and Danidoo get you ready for the more frantic Sponge verse up ahead, and having pretty iconic melodies all things considered. And Thumpies and Pangle add a lot to the atmosphere of the two verses. Quibble and Bogart have a great duet together throughout the song and pretty much carry this entire thing and are the main foundation for the dissonance of the song, since their chord progressions really work with the dissonant monsters. Bogart in particular is really excellent with his third track that works excellently well with Furcorn and Strombonin and giving just the right amount of intensity the song needed. Maw and Toejammer have a really good call and response together and both sound really good alongside Sponge, and their vocal performance only add to that. Deej is what single-handedly keeps this whole island afloat. Other than Epic Wobox, Deej is the entire rhythmic interest of the whole song, meaning without this one monster, Cold Island just becomes straight up awful. So it ends up being as impactful as both Bogart and Quibble. Wait a minute, did Dipsters actually have a good track? Yes, believe it or not, Dipster's second track is actually pretty good, with a catchy melody that doesn't just play on top of everything like usual. Good on ya, Dipsters. Rare Wobox here is a massive improvement over Plant. It adds a lot to the rhythmic interest and fits alongside Sponge a lot better than Yule or Grumpire, and adds a lot of spice to the verse it's in. Epic Wobox is just as good as ever. Its rhythms are just a more complex version of the usual Cold Island rhythm like Deej, but it has excellent instrumentation, and its duet with Furcorn is fantastic. Strombonin is a perfect way to cap off the song. Without it, that verse has no reason to exist, and its actual track is pretty interesting with its different intensities adding a lot of flavor to the verse. Talker is an amazing Wario track. Its performance is brilliant, its melodies add a lot to the song, and its duets with every monster it plays with are perfect. The best monster on the island is without question Furcorn, as it has the best melody on the island and one of the best performances too, only behind Talker. Just like Strombonen, Furcorn has different intensities in the track that just make the verse it plays in. It really helps bring out its duet with Bogart, as well as make the melody itself really stand out, and it works fantastically well alongside Strombonen and Epic Willbox. The melody is also really good. It's catchy but has a tinge of sadness to it that just works for Cold Island. Furcorn in general is an amazing monster, and this is the Furcorn that works as the basis for all future Furcorns, not Plant. So that's Cold Island. It's very controversial, but is it good? Yes, it is good. Despite its problems, its strengths outshine the negatives by a landslide, and stands as a pretty good island in the game. So that's that. Do you agree or disagree? Were my words a warming gift or ice cold? Let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it from me, and I'll see you in the next one.